All right. Well, hey, everyone. Welcome to the virtual JKC Gallery Third Thursdays. We had a little technical difficulty at the gallery. The internet was completely down in the entire building. And so I hopped in my car, which is where I'm in now. I'm heading home, and Heather and Habib are going to really run things tonight. I just want to say hi and thank you all for coming and let you know that the gallery, even though we can't be there tonight, it does have regular hours. We have Mondays and Fridays from 10 to 2. If you visit jkcgallery.online, you can register to visit. So we still need you to register to visit because it's all student volunteers and we want to help them out as much as possible with their timing and everything. And we have a fantastic show up right now by Philip McConnell called Analog Surrealism. So come by, check it out if you can. I'll be doing a walkthrough video tour pretty soon with Philip's talk, which was amazing. Some of you, I'm sure, were there. And I'm just going to hand it over because I'm in the car. So thanks for coming, everyone.
Yeah, please drive safe, Michael.
I will.
Well, thank you all for being here. Third Thursdays, as you all know, is a monthly event on the third Thursdays of each month at the JKC Gallery, which is an incredible gallery in Trenton, New Jersey at Mercer County Community College. Habib and I brought this event to life with the intention to build the photography community here in Trenton through community, inspiration, and education. So we're so happy that you're all here with us. We have two incredible artists. I'm going to let Habib introduce them to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy you guys are here tonight. These are two well-credited artists. We have Chris Facey from Brooklyn, New York, making his way from North Carolina. We also have Lang from New Jersey, who's a traveling photographer. I don't even know where this guy is right now. Without further ado, I'm going to let them introduce each other because, like I said, they're well-credited artists. So we're going to start off with Lang tonight. Lang, take it away.
Thanks so much, Habib. So my name's Lang. I'm a darkroom artist. I'm gonna share my screen with you. Let's see. And so, before I started doing darkroom work, I began as a landscape photographer and basically to a few different places, just searching for landscapes. I started in New Zealand. I traveled to Southeast Asia, Norway, Iceland. I traveled across the US. I recently got back from a 4-month artist residency in Estonia. And I have a few upcoming exhibitions, one of which is in the Artists Union in St. Petersburg, Russia. I have a solo exhibition at the Monmouth Museum here in New Jersey. And following that, one actually at the JKC Gallery. And so another interesting achievement that I've had, there was an organization looking to fund like a painting project, right? And so I came to them with my photographs and I convinced them that they were paintings and I won the fund. And so basically I did this by showing them a new perspective on photography, right? And so, and if you think about it, like this is what photography is. It's about showing a new perspective. And, perspective has a couple different definitions. So, perspective is, I can show you literally the side of the building, right? I could show you different sides of the same building. This is one way of perspective. But perspective can also be an attitude or an idea behind something. So what if I took this same building and shifted the perspective again, and you have something kind of entirely different? So this is one image from one of the 3 main projects that I want to talk to you about today. The first of which is called Manifest Content. And so Manifest Content is a experimental darkroom project I started about 2 years ago. I started this project as a means of experimentation. Up until this point, I was shooting landscapes, printing in the darkroom, and that print was the final piece. And so I wanted to kind of play around and try to push a little bit further, try something that I've never done before. And so what I did was, I kept a dream journal. I went through and pulled specific concepts or imagery from this dream journal. And then I went to my book of negatives and pulled out certain negatives that had similar images, right? And so I took these negatives, brought them into the darkroom, and just kind of looked to see kind of what matched together. And I started playing around with mashing two images together to create something completely new. And so, when you look at these, there's no real logical sense to them. And even though I have, I have a reason why they're created this way, there's no way that you could look at this and figure out why I created this. And so you kind of see this and you're automatically trying to fill in the gaps. You kind of create your own narrative. And so the second project that I want to talk to you about is called Protected Lands. And so this project began while I was traveling the US. I lived out of my van for 3 months and traveled to many different national parks. And so being a landscape photographer, I shot many landscapes. And so naturally, when I set up to shoot a landscape, I kind of wait until there are no people in the shot. And so it's kind of just the landscape, just the nature. But what happened was when I returned home from this trip, I had about 200 rolls of negatives and started developing them and looking at all these images of these like raw, untouched landscapes. And then, there was a disconnect from what I was looking at and my experience in these national parks, right? When I, drove through the parks, I was literal traffic waiting to get to a parking spot to do a hike, or I would go to the viewpoint of a certain location and wait in a crowd of people so that I can look at this view. And so these images of like the raw nature did not line up with my experience. And so I began to, think like what can I do with these to show how inorganic my experience was. So then I started to, place the landscapes in these inorganic shapes. And this was actually one of the first ones. It was a very quick, simple cube. So I made a test of this and it looked surprisingly well. Like I really liked how it looked and I liked how comfortable I felt displaying it in this way. It felt much more true in this sense. So then I continued and I made more and more different shapes, different landscapes, and pulled negatives, all of the US national parks. So all of the images, like I said, they're from specifically just national parks. No people. This is from Umpqua in Oregon. This is Black Canyon of the Gunnison in Colorado. Yellowstone. And so the third project that I want to talk to you about is called the Procession. And this one's a little bit different than the others. I also started this one by experimenting. And so what I did was set up a camera at the foot of my bed. And before I went to sleep, I started my exposure. And I left my camera open the entire night. When I woke up, I closed it. And, later on, I developed the roll and saw this photo. And I was like, this is my bedroom, right? This is my bed. But there's this, what is this storm cloud like floating above my bed? And then I remembered, oh, this is myself. Like, this is me sleeping. And this really interested me. And I don't know exactly why, but I was very drawn to this. And so I was like, okay, cool. Let's do this again. And so I continued to do it more and more often, and printing them in these circles, you know, like a cycle. And, you know, even more printing them. And I'm shooting these almost every night. And I realize that this becomes like a autobiography. It's a self-documentation of my life through sleeping. And at this point, I have over 100 of these, and it is constantly growing. You know, you look at these, each individual circle is about 8 hours, you know, of my life compressed into one two-dimensional circle. And then when you look at 100 of these, you know, I begin to realize this is 800 hours of my life that I'm looking at, you know, in this, whatever this is, this noise, this like visual noise. And so this is still a continuing project. And, you know, these are three main projects that I find are really important to myself as an artist. And, you know, when I break down why are these projects important to me, or why do I find them successful? You know, one of the core things that exists in each of these projects is the experimentation. And, you know, for instance, manifest content, this was literally a way for me to begin experimentation, right? Like I just wanted to try something new. I wanted to try to blend images together, do something that I've never done before. And I wasn't thinking about what's going to look like at the end, you know, what's it going to mean? I just wanted to do something. So, you know, the images in the project are kind of, all of them are somewhat blended together. You can't tell where one image ends and the next begins. And, you know, there came a time when I wanted to blend two images together and I could not do it. I could not seamlessly create a mask for these two images to exist together. And so I thought to myself, what if instead of trying to hide the mask, I put more emphasis on the mask, and the mask becomes, you know, the central part of the image. And that is how protected lands began. You know, when you see this shape, the landscape within the shape is literally created by looking at the lines of the masks. And, you know, this is a very core part of that project now. And it began from the experimentation of manifest content. And so, you know, in the same way, the procession was also kind of a way of experimentation with shooting a long exposure, doing a self-portrait, which is something I don't normally do. Another interesting thing with the procession is this is the first photography project where I begin to not use photography. In addition to shooting these images, I keep an audio journal of my days. Before I fall asleep, I kind of do an audio recording just speaking about my day, put it aside. And every time I develop a roll of film, I overlay these audio recordings into one kind of just mess of a noise, and it's very overwhelming. And the more information there is, the less you can understand. And it's the same with the images. You see this huge amount and it's very confusing. And so, you know, these experimentations led to, you know, a concept. And this is like a second big, you know, something that I find very important in my work, something that I strive for. And so from the experimentation, and I do these experiments over and over again, and I start to see a pattern. And when I notice this pattern, you know, I can kind of break it apart a little bit better, and I'm able to speak about it. And by speaking about this pattern, I'm speaking about the work, I'm speaking about myself, and a meaning, you know, meaning is there. And, you know, the way that it's spoken comes back to what we initially talked about with perspective. And so these are the three things, all of these kind of tied together, you know, to create, you know, what I find is important in my photography. And, you know, these are the three main reasons why I was able to convince this painting organization to give me the fund. And, you know, when you think about it, photography is just painting, but with light. Thank you.
Wow, Ling, that was amazing.
Amazing. Wow. Wow. Definitely. Without further ado, I want to keep this ball rolling. Let's get the momentum. Let's keep it going. Hey, Chris Facey, it's on you, man. Do your thing, bro.
So what's up, everybody? Thank you guys for having me. You know, I've been waiting to get on here for a little minute now, but I'm happy to be here. So let me get to the little share screen business. There we go. Hold on now. Work with me now. So everybody can see this. It should be a black screen, yes?
Yes, you're good.
So I'm going to take this moment to just introduce myself for those who don't know me in the room. My name is Chris Facey. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I'm now living in North Carolina. A lot of my work is really just based on celebrating the many facets and diversity of Black culture, trying to combat stereotypes and bring awareness to usually underrepresented issues in the Black community. So everything Black essentially is the best way, it's the best way to put my work. Which is a great start to why I put this slide Black, going on the fly. So before I start going into my work, I want to take a minute to pay respect to these Black women here. Definitely to the lady in the middle, the young lady in the middle, Aluwa Toyin Salau. I believe everyone calls her Toyin in her circle. She was a 19-year-old activist who was sexually assaulted and murdered in Tallahassee, Florida. And this was the last straw for me at this visual, for me to just do something. I couldn't figure out what I could do as just one person. So I figured I'd just use photography to do it. I guess that's the best option, that best choice I got right now. But it was in the moment of making this photo.
Recording in progress.
In the progress of making this photograph, it inspired this following project called Being Careful, Carrying More Than a Burden. It's a project based around women's safety in New York City. It's still an ongoing project. Of course, because I'm not in New York City, I have opened it up to North Carolina, of course, and in the surrounding areas. When you think of being careful as a man, in my experience, it's kind of taken for granted. Like you don't really assume too much about being careful. Things not really happening to you that often as you would like to think. But when you say be careful to a woman when she's leaving for the night or going wherever she's going, they kind of don't really need you to say that to them. They've been careful all day. And it kind of comes with the territory, unfortunately, with the way society is set. Give me a second, I'm sorry, guys. Okay, the way society is set. So women are on guard all day. What do you do when you're on guard like this all the time? This gotta be anxiety ridden, right? That gotta be too much. I can't imagine if it was for me, how I gotta fill up tight all day. So these women shared stories with me and show me weapons that they take with them, things that they use to protect themselves out in the street. If you wanna, read their stories, you can go to my website, cocobuttershutter.com, and you can read the stories to go with the images. So you can see some of the weapons that women are carrying out in the street. I chose to photograph it in this way to kind of blur out their faces, for one, to hide their identity as much as I could, but also to bring the focus on the extreme lengths they got to go to feel safe in the city. A lot of the main connection of the issues were that it was men that made them feel uncomfortable. So I felt, as a man, maybe I should be the one to help spearhead this project, bring awareness to this, to let them know that it's not all men. Some men are really trying to help. I just don't, this is what I know how to do to help, other than physically put hands and feet on somebody if it's in front of me. It's the only other way I can really word it. Even here on the left, she uses martial arts. She's trained up Somebody roll up on her, she probably gonna break your arm in 3-4 different places. She's good to go. You know, we got people using keys, and I'm sure that was like a unanimous object by most women in New York City was their keys. Never thought to have to use my keys like this for myself personally, but for someone just going home, trying to go from the train to home, from home to work, to just walking the dog, throwing out the trash, to be in this constant state of awareness, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just not with that. And I love that the last photo here is a friend of mine, Tia, and she definitely heavily expressed to me the power of prayer for her when going out into the world, just trying to be. So I wanted to use that project, being careful to bring awareness to that. So if any women out there are still interested in participating, just contact me through Instagram, email, whatever contact you can do. Next project is my Dad Duty project, which is a project definitely near and dear to my heart, being a father of 2 beautiful young girls. Usually it's been in my experience that most Black fathers don't get enough recognition or celebration. They don't get celebrated as much, get treated like second-class citizens. I've seen ads as far, as recent as 2018 from Macy's, where they had every combination of a family that you can have, except for a Black mom with a Black dad in the image. Anytime I've been around Black fathers, they have always been with their children. I'm a Black dad, my brother, my father, some of my best friends. I've always seen them take an active role, so I wasn't really familiar with that daddy's not there thing, and that, although it exists, it is a real thing. It's not pushed as low as what they make it seem. And then they never want to talk about the issues that led to that, but I digress. So this is my way of celebrating, Black fathers being active in their children's lives. Now, this project has taken many forms from how I wanted it to come out. I had to make some adjustments for COVID and stuff, but ultimately I kind of stuck to my original guns of the candid, intimate moments. It's going to be in black and white. That's how I operate. So, just showing those moments of dads being there. It might be a regular day for them, but they should get some type of recognition for that. And I'm not saying dads are better than or less than moms. We are both needed. It's just that you got to be aware that there's a difference when Mother's Day come, they talking diamonds, and Father's Day come, they talking toolbox. I like jewelry too. I like a chain or something nice, I'll take that. But this is my way of doing that for Black fathers as well as myself. This is also an ongoing project, still going. So any Black fathers, please let me know, talk to me. Look, so you don't have to be specifically a dad or specifically a mom to know this look. Like, that is exhaustion. You've been at it all day. You've been doing it. You're tired, but the baby tired too. Comfortable tired. That's the thing. Dads will go to some certain lengths to, be with their kid. They're doing this 3-legged race here on the left. That day was an amazing day with Black fathers. I've seen some really tough guys do whatever it took to be the hero for their kid, and I love it. I loved it. I love every minute of it. Dad's always the jungle gym too. I know Habib could relate. Oh, Double Dutch. Another project near and dear to my heart. Shout out to Brother West for being there the day that I conceived this idea in my head. It was during 2020. It was a different form of protest. It was a jump for justice from a few jump rope teams in the tri-state area. And I wanted to photograph that because it was just different than all the yelling and the screaming that, you need a break. And immediately photographing that, I was just like, it was nostalgic. I was taken back to the 90s when I grew up, and I remember seeing my sisters and the neighbors, everybody jumping. I could visually see the girls jumping rope with jellies on and all types of stuff. Like, this was like, I could see that. And I was, more importantly, what was like to see was kids were outside doing stuff. They weren't behind the screen. They weren't texting and all of this other stuff that they don't need to be doing. They were outside being active, fresh air, sweating. And it's in that is when you learn about Black girl magic, and you see it for yourself. You see the alchemy in Black people, how we could take nothing and make it something, like it just, to see it, my daughter went in on day one with the Jump Kids Health team in Jersey. Shout out Layla Little from Newark. She has Jump Kids Health, wonderful organization. To see my daughter come in there and she be shy, and then by the end of the day, she feels like she's known the other girls in there her whole life. That comes from the rope. It's a teamwork thing. It's a rhythm of more than one person. It becomes about teamwork. It becomes about all of you working together. And you see that happening, and you see why jump rope is such a big thing in girlhood. Like, that's a real thing. Like, you're changing your life, making connections over this. Look how they look, but again, look at the magic. That's my daughter on the left there. You would never think, unless you really in it, you wouldn't really think that. Look how the times have changed. Ropes used to be used for something else in Black culture. Look how we took it, flipped it out. Look, peep the alchemy. Peep the alchemy. Do you see that? That's magic. That's magic. We took it and flipped it and made it a plaything. Something that helped ingrain. A rope is the only thing connect. Man, don't get me started. Don't get me started. But it's a beautiful thing to see this. I'm still looking for jump ropers in the North Carolina area. So if anybody know anybody who's anybody, send them my way, please. Still working. From young, even the coaches that you see that I went through in these photos, they've been jumping for years, 20, 30 years, championships. I think the annual championship is coming up in December at the Apollo Theater in December. So if y'all could find a link for it, I advise y'all to go support them. But you have these different teams from different age groups, and you just watch it. And it's boys and girls. It was mostly girls, but there are boys that jump rope as well. It's just a really good thing. I would have did it, but the way my knees and back is set up, I'm just good to take the pictures. They can have this. Oh, okay. You should be winding down now, so hopefully I'm not taking too much of anybody's time. Even in Deaf is a small series that's part of a bigger project that I'm working on. I just completed a residency in Wilson, North Carolina, with the Eyes on Main Street. That has been an eye-opening experience for me, for sure. What I've experienced there, and I did focus on the Black history of Wilson. And there's so much amazing Black history there. How Black business owners were there in charge of, tobacco fields and making money in the tobacco industry, businessmen, lawyers, teachers, doctors, you name it. This was a part of the Chitlin circuit back in the days. They have stories of James Brown visiting. They have stories of Muhammad Ali visiting. I met a gentleman who was responsible for getting Muhammad Ali his Quran. That's a big deal, at least to me. But in understanding this Black history, I came across this scene. Now, what you're looking at is now the place of what used to be a cemetery for the common Black folk in Wilson, North Carolina. There's, as you can see, maybe you're asking, where's the tombstones? Where's the headstones? Where's the sack? There are none. The city of Wilson decided that, after the city complained that about it being on low ground, on the other side of the tracks, mind you, on low ground, it would flood and they wanted better conditions for it. So they said, oh yeah, we're gonna fix it. And all they did was take the headstones and lost them, destroy them, they're gone. In this field that you're looking at, there are thousands of Black bodies. Generations of somebody's history has just been cut off that fast. This is Vic Cemetery, where it's at. On the left is Mr. Castanova Hooks, who was like a super liaison in Wilson, North Carolina for me. I'm extremely grateful for the time he took. And as you can see, he's completely emotional about it as well, where he's showing me the vast, expansive land of all the bodies that's underneath here. And on this path, it leads to this monument that they put, which you can see in the next photo is a poem that they wrote to the city and excuse my French, but it's like a sorry ass excuse for, of a sorry note to the Black citizens of Wilson. And I'll read it. It says, beneath this earthen sod rest those whose citizens known but to God. Free man, slave, father, mother, sister, brother, unknown to us the lives, the loves, the cares, the sorrows, the joys, the happiness they know. And now they sleep, as nature does in winter's grasp, and just like the seasons that come and go, and spring's warm breath awakens life chilled by winter's snow. Our loved ones and all who sleep is a season of death, will too be awakened by the master's life-giving breath. By Catherine G. Taylor. No disrespect to Catherine G. Taylor. I mean, it's nicely written. I mean, maybe she really dug deep, maybe, right? But to me, that's not enough to equate what just happened here. A poem is not gonna help us figure out this lost connection someone's gonna have from their gender. This is Black history here, just being whitewashed. Some of the citizens also told me when it would rain, it would flood, because they're in the lower part of Wilson now. It would flood, and they would see pieces of caskets and bones and things from bodies that will float down. That's wild to me. Even in death, they are being disrespected, and their time on earth while they were alive, they were being disrespected, right? So right to the left of that expansive field is the Oddfellow Cemetery here. That's Mr. Hooks again, my liaison for this, of course. And shout out to Lisa Henderson as well for providing a blog called Black Wide Awake, which really delves into detail more about the city of Wilson and its citizens. To the left of him, you can see those little white things sticking out of the ground. Those are headstones. This is the graveyard for the more affluent Black folk, people that had their own money. It's a private cemetery. It's a private cemetery, but look how it was left. We're using it as and dog, like old animals in plastic bags. They just treated it like a dumping ground. And this is a resting place for some people. As you can see in the right, somebody's father is buried here underneath all of this bush of whatever, these weeds, overgrown, right? That's another tombstone way in the back there, just behind all this brush. This stuff was going up to at least my chest before you can go back there to even see, to touch it. And Lisa Henderson has put forth the Lane Street project, where they go and they clean it up and cut the weeds down, and they have weeds in there growing about that grown like wisteria. It looks real pretty, but it really sucks the life out of the nearby trees and life and the plant life there. And for it to be as thick as it was means that it would have had to been there for decades to grow like that. So this has just been desecrated. There were tombstones there that I've seen with musket holes in them. You hate them so much so, you hate people so much so in death that you shoot the tombstone. We're dead, but I digress, right? Look at this. Look at this compared to this, right? This is another cemetery in Wilson. This is right across the tracks. Apparently, these railroad tracks separate Wilson into the two sides. We don't got to speak about the two sides. I'm sure you know by now. Look at this obelisk, this symbol of power, clean, nicely cut around, look real nice. This is Maplewood Cemetery. Tax dollars of the citizen of Wilson pays. They pay for this, to include the black taxpayers that live there. On the side of Wilson that they don't come, because it's a psychological barrier for them to come over here because of how it's treated. There's remnants of Jim Crow still in place here. But look, there wasn't a time I went to the cemetery where there wasn't somebody working on these grounds, placing fresh flowers, cutting the grass, picking up debris. There was never a day I went, it was not there. Never. There was a clear difference for me in the cemeteries. There's a clear difference in everything on both sides of those towns, which is an overarching part of my larger project. But when you look at this, look how nice. You got the little angel just praying and look all nice, and I applaud it. All the roads in that cemetery leads to this plot in the center. In this Confederate graveyard, or cemetery rather, called Maplewood Cemetery. All the roads in there lead to this, to a statue of a Confederate soldier with a Confederate flag, which reads, "Our Confederate dead." Look how they honor their dead versus how they honor ours. Look at that. With your own eyes, you've seen the difference between the two. This is what's going on. And it's these type of things that letting the cemetery grow like that is a part of this revisionist history that they're putting forth. This is all part of that critical race theory they're putting forth, try to cover the blemish of what America is. You can't, it's not happening. Not while I'm alive, not while I have a camera. It's just not happening. It's just not happening. Look at it's you can't say that it's not about black and white when it's in black and white. It's right here. Like I'm showing you. And this is not just one town in North Carolina. This is across the American South in so many places. When I called my dad to tell him about what I just experienced that day, because I shedded tears when I seen that Oddfellow cemetery. And I called my dad, and unfortunately it was his birthday when I called him. He would spend his summers in Tarboro, which is not too far from where I was at. And he would tell me, yeah, that's how it always been. That's just how it's been. If you don't say nothing, if you don't do nothing, that's just how it's been, and it's been left like that. My pop's been living a long time. For him to just say that so nonchalantly like that, but for me to see this one time, for it to hit me, to see the difference, how Black people are being treated right now, face to face right now in the South like that. Today in 2021, there's a complete difference between the two sides of the tracks, but they say racism is not an issue. They say, get over these things. Oh, that's not happening. We don't want to talk about it. You're hurting little Timmy and Jimmy's feelings. I'm sorry, little Timmy and Jimmy, but your granddaddy, your great-granddaddy, your great-great-granddaddy, grandmama, somebody was a little evil down the line. And I need y'all to know, because history can repeat itself if you don't know. And that's not happening on my watch. And I say that with the utmost respect for everybody in this room right now. But hear me, it's not happening while I'm alive. I'm not doing it. So I think that's the last photo. That should be the last photo. This is where you can find me at my website, cocobuttershutter.com, my Instagram as it's written, Twitter as it's written. And I'm currently showing at 2 galleries here in North Carolina. One is the 311 Gallery here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and 2 at the SunTrust Gallery in Durham, North Carolina. Prints are available at my website. If there are images that you've seen on my Instagram or on my website that are not in the print shop, reach out to me directly and we'll see what we can do. Thank you.
Yo, fucking powerful. I'm pissed off now. Heather, take it away. That, like, seriously, I don't want to hold up. Like, you guys have any questions, leave them in the chat. The fuck, I'm Chris Lang. Goddamn, that Heather.
It's amazing when art can make you feel angry, speechless, all at the same time.
Seriously. Oh,
Thank you to both of you. You both had really incredible presentations. Your work is inspiring. It was so nice to see so many different projects from each of you. And I'm sure we're going to have lots of questions in the chat box. There are definitely lots of comments. So Lang and Chris, you may want to scroll through and see all the compliments and comments about your work. And we'll have to see. One person did ask for social media for both of you, contact information for the artist. That was Regina. I know, Chris, your last slide had your information in it, but maybe you can type it into the chat box where it'll
Yeah.
It'll stay. And maybe Lang, you can type your Instagram handle and webpage into the chat box as well so that everyone can access it.
I'll put my website in there. If
Yeah,
anyone.
perfect. Thank you. And then let's see. I did see a question.
There was one from Shauna Levy.
That's
What are
I'm
you
looking
going?
for.
Yeah, what are you going to capture next relating
Yes.
to this? I think that's for you, Chris.
I think it could be for both of them. They both
That's true.
many
Absolutely.
projects, you know, like
Let's
but
make it for both.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so why don't you go first?
I'm working on some more Black history work. I've been exploring the history of Wilmington, North Carolina, as well as a city here in North Carolina. I don't want to spill too much of the beans on that one right now that I'm working on, but hopefully that too, I can bring awareness to that and hopefully bring a change there. But it's a small town here in North Carolina that should get its recognition for being what it is. So that's what I'm working on now, but always going to be working on documenting the Black culture in all aspects. So wherever that leads me.
Awesome.
I'm currently working on a new project. I'm working actually first time with a collaborative. My friend who is an artist flew in from Lithuania and is spending the month here. She is a carbon monotype artist, and we are kind of meshing our mediums together and creating kind of these portable art installations in the middle of nowhere, in abandoned buildings, in the forest. And this is kind of where we're headed next. We have a few upcoming shows. We have, you know, the end of this month is a lot of figuring things out, technical details about bringing power into the woods and, you know, photographing, setting up. And April or May of next year, we will be in the Baltics, traveling through Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland.
Awesome.
Can't wait to see both of you guys' project, future that you guys have going on, what you guys are working on, and even catching up on some of your old work, you know. Definitely.
Yeah. I know y'all got questions. Come on with it.
Like sometimes I feel like art is self-explanatory when you see it. Sometimes it's like me, you know, you have it's just like you just gotta walk away with it and let that shit marinate with you for a minute, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it like kind of like music. It's like you listen to an album, people are like, oh, that's the best album I ever heard. Like did you listen to it? Like, did you really let it sit with you for a good month? You know, like it's a different medium sometimes. And I really like, usually I'll try to throw out a question because I have so many, but just watching you guys, and Chris, I know you personally and we talk, I try to talk to you, you know, throughout the week, and you tell me different things that you have going on out there. We don't go into depth with it like you just did, man. Like even me personally knowing you, I'm over here like, damn, like who is this guy? Like this shit was crazy, man. And Lang, your work is like, it makes me want to explore more of the medium when it comes out of photography, just different things that you could do. Like what you did, like sleeping, like that series right there, that's crazy, man. And I feel like I like have a problem with sleeping. I can't remember dreams and different things. Like how you said, you'll make a memo, how you'll record yourself saying what you know, like, I don't know. I don't really have any questions. It's just like, shit, I can't wait to see what's the future have for you guys. Right
Question
now.
did come through. Whoop. A question did come through from Marcy Roberts. Hey, Marcy. Chris, do you see yourself using black and white photography far into the future?
Oh, yeah, all day, every day. I'll photograph in color when I think color helps the image, but most of the time, it's gone. 9 times out of 10, you could bet your last 2 quarters is black and white for me.
That actually makes me think of a question because I talk to a lot of photographers about this. Do you, when you're approached for work, magazine work, other work, editorial work, is it because they see what you do and you're doing in black and white and they're not going to ask you to do color? Or is it a little bit of both? Are there times where they ask you, oh, we really need this as well?
If they want it in color, they usually say so. Right out the gate, you already know you're gonna get black and white from me. So if you're hiring me to do something, it's black and white. And if you want it in color, I could do that too. But it has to be specified. Like, let me know, because because you have to think differently in both. You know, you think one way in
Absolutely.
black and white versus color. So let me know what you need, and I can make the mental adjustment that I need to make.
Yeah, we
instead
got a few more for you, Chris, here. From Gary Soretsky. Hi, Gary. Have you considered presenting diptychs in the white and black cemeteries juxtaposed?
I have. They're gonna probably be in the print form when I do them, but it's not, but I have. That's the way I'm leaning right now. There's quite a few more photographs I need to make out there in Wilson that should help move it forward.
Yeah. And then Lisa Brown, how subliminal is the representation of two different worlds in the South compared to the North? Perennial question. Yes.
Subliminal. Yeah, it's
Like
really sneaky. It's really sneaky. Actually, it's more sneaky in the North than it is here in the South. In the South, it's really like right in your face. So much so, even like I was saying earlier, even psychologically, like that whole other side of the tracks thing, you always hear about it, you know what it means to an extent, but then to see it is it's a different experience altogether. That's not really happening like that in the North per se. Like they're not directly doing it as hard as they're doing it there. It's way more subtle in the North, way more subtle up there. Down here, it's my first week here. I think I had 3 racist incidences in my first week and a half here. And I had to just, bite my tongue. The New Yorker in me is not really want to just let it fly, but my mom's voice kind of overtook that. It was like, don't go down there and get crazy. But she knows how it can be, but knowing where I'm at and understand, like, I didn't feel like I needed a weapon per se in the North as much as I feel like I need one here in the South, if that makes any sense.
No, it certainly does. Yeah. Oh, we got a couple coming in from Lang, from Shauna Levy. Hi. The pyramid concept with landscaping. What was the motive? How did it deliver as opposed to being square? And Phoenix and Photog, I just saw your question too. I'll get to that one too.
So, the pyramid concept, the pyramid was actually the second print that I made, the first being the cube. And basically I just wanted to explore the idea a little bit further. So I began to design a little bit more complex shapes. And, the image that's in the shape is Great Sand Dunes National Park. And basically I would make the shape first, and then I'd go and search through my negatives and kind of find a composition that fit the shape. And, in my head, I'm thinking sand and, almost like a pyramid kind of feel very natural together. And so this is how I went, tackled that.
And then from Phoenix the Photog, Lang, your process of creation, is this more of a recent approach to exploration and creating? And if not, what was your approach to creating before, if so?
So I probably began experimenting a little bit more deeply 2 years ago. Up until that point, like I said, I was traveling and shooting landscapes, which was very meditative. I kind of used photography as a means of traveling and using traveling as a means of photography. So this thing just kind of generated itself and allowed me to see the world. And, I never felt like a lot of stress to shoot. I would just go to these places that I wanted to go and very naturally would capture. And, this to me seemed very much, very external, just kind of seeing what's around me and taking it in and collecting these things. And, I began to experiment a little bit more when I kind of sat on these experiences and negatives and allowed them to kind of develop and mix inside of me, and played around a little bit more with how they are shown back to the viewer.
I can give a little inside information. I saw Lang's work in its infancy stages. And the layers and complication you've added to it, it's phenomenal. Just phenomenal. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yep. From I Might Snap, Lang, what inspired you to take your photos outside the box? Your work is incredible.
Kind of just answered this one as well. You know, photography has been, up until that point of experimenting, has been just seeing and kind of living and photographing. And it was never like, I never put myself in the images so much. It was, I see this landscape, I take this landscape and I enjoy it. And it's a very nice process. But there came a point when I wanted to maybe push something a little bit deeper, something that when someone would look at, began to, you know, maybe question something or use it as a means to kind of look inward. You know, photography can be seen as a window looking at the outside world. It can also be used as a mirror to look back at yourself.
Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, I typed mine in. I was just curious. I have darkroom experience myself. How long does it take you to make the masks and then the final print itself? I could imagine much longer than normal.
Depends. You know, this cube, the initial shape that I made, I just wanted to see if it would even work. You know, I had the idea of, you know, focusing on this mask, and the cube was the simplest thing I could think of to create, you know, 3 different dimensions. And so I probably, from creating the mask and to print, was maybe 2 hours. And it was very sloppy. The very first one that I did was extremely sloppy. But so then I kind of, you know, did closer measurements and things like this. And this obviously took a lot more time. This pyramid one is my favorite print. I will never sell this ever. Only one exists. And it took me 10 hours just to make the mask. And I used 3 separate enlargers, 3 separate negatives to print. And the printing process alone took another 4 or 5 hours.
Wow, that's incredible.
You can always sell it as a digital NFT.
You know, working with my hands with chemicals, you know, hand process photography. I'm going to sell it on the digital marketplace.
There's some side conversation going on here with BJ Randolph and Habib. BJ Randolph, is that you, Bonnie? Oh, I think that's.
It's me.
Hey, Bonnie. Bonnie
Hi.
is the person you will run into when you visit the gallery. Bonnie has volunteered her time to give us regular gallery hours. So thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a conversation we could definitely have on the side. I just want to throw it
Okay.
out there because I'm familiar with it also. I believe it's off of Chestnut Avenue. I'm from the Wilbur section
Yeah,
area.
it
Yeah,
is.
I'm from Wilbur section, so I know I'm very familiar with it. So we could definitely talk about that. I'll probably come to the gallery sometime soon. You know,
Okay, I'm there Mondays and Fridays.
definitely.
Okay.
Man, I'm stoked about this show. This show is killer, man. This is what this is all about, Heather. This is what we like. We made this shit, man. Mike, Mr. Dalton, come on, man.
No,
these guests were awesome tonight. Come
when we were
on.
doing the pregame for this show, I knew it was going to be really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
this is real, man. I'm at a loss for words. I'm really at a loss for words. You guys can see the artists where you can actually reach out to them at, try to get that 101 from Lang, get some prints from off of Face, see what he has coming up in the future. Oh man, I can talk to you guys forever. You guys stick around for the after party, you know. That's what we do here. We're back to Zoom.
And maybe we'll say our goodbyes and I'll stop the recording. So thanks
Yes.
everyone for coming. This was awesome.
Yes, thank you everybody for showing up.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was a great show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.